All right, today we're going to be talking about installing a bubble up liner in a John Deere combine. Today we're using a 9650 STS. We're going to be putting in the 11 by 45 inch bubble up. First thing we want to do when we're doing this bubble up, first you want to check out your bubble up for any wear, which we did notice it's getting real thin right here where the seam is. And there's actually a crack developing on the back side of the seam, which will lead to a hole, which will lead to grain pouring out the side instead of coming out the front where we want it here. The other thing we're going to be doing today, we're going to be replacing this bubble up auger because it is well past its life. So first things you want to do, you want to remove the 4 bolts and nuts here on the side. Those we use an M15. I already broke all these free just to get started here. And then up here on top, the bolt that holds the auger in place, that's going to be an M18. I went ahead and broke that one free as well. So I'll go ahead and I'll get all this removed here, and then we'll move forward with showing you guys inside the tube and what we want to see and what we want to clean up. So, all right, so now that we got the auger out, we can kind of take a look here and see where some of the high wear areas are besides where it just dumps over the edge here. So right here at that seam where the pieces overlap, you can see the seam's kind of coming apart, but actually on the back side where the 2 pieces meet, it's starting to split. So that's one area of concern. And if we come down here in the tube, it's kind of hard to see, but right there, there's some thinning going on right there at the bottom of the tube. And actually over here on the other side, about 3 inches from the seam, there's actually a hole that has worn through into the next layer of sheet metal. So that's what we're trying to accomplish with sliding this bubble up liner in place. All right, now that the liner is down inside the tube and it's clamped in place, we went ahead and started to drill out the holes for the bearing brackets. You want to go ahead and start drilling out the holes for the bolts to actually hold the liner in place. And you'll want to put those bolts at about the 11 o'clock position, 1 o'clock position, 4 or 5 o'clock position, and 7 or 8 o'clock position. Try to avoid at least the 12 and 6 o'clock position because you don't want the bolts at your high or low points, just because it could be an area where the auger could start to rub if you put any bolts down here. All right, now that we got all the bolts installed, the holes drilled, we're going to go ahead and put the auger back in, get everything lined back up, make sure it's not rubbing. We did check once, but we'll double check everything again before we go to the field, make sure this isn't rubbing anywhere. And we still have to put some silicone here in these gaps to make sure grain doesn't get behind it. And then down at the bottom too, you want a silicone around there to make sure grain, dirt, debris isn't getting behind any of these gaps. All right, now that we got the bubble up liner completely installed in the tube here, we're just going to go ahead and fire it up, make sure there's no clearance issues, and then we'll go ahead and take it out to the field and start running.